Welcome back to a new episode of The Big Three, the podcast where we break down the biggest stories shaping influencer marketing and the creator economy. I'm your host, Ceci Carloni, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Ahene, founder of Net Influencer. Nice seeing you again. How's everything going?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good, yeah. It's already Q2. It's insane.
It's
Here we
already
go.
April. I don't know how that happened. It's been busy, but good busy, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. For today's episode, we've got some good stories to unpack. So let's dive in. To kick things off, we have Samsung's Galaxy S26 Ultra creator-led campaign from last month. For this campaign, the brand flew 100 from 35 countries to San Francisco for a 3-day event called Team Galaxy Connect 2026, timed around the actual launch of the Galaxy S26 Ultra. They split creators into 3 different content tracks: camera, gaming, and sound, so every creator could create content aligned to their own audience. And there were some really cool moments that came out of it. For example, there was a gaming live stream featuring Team Galaxy influencers that pulled nearly 70 million views. Filmmaker Monique Yvonne made a short film on the S26 Ultra that was actually screened at the launch of the event itself. And then the whole thing wrapped with an award ceremony recognizing the top performing content across the categories we mentioned before: camera, music, and gaming. So this was a truly creator-led, very structured, planned campaign. Samsung didn't just fly creators out, they built an actual production ecosystem around them. So when you see a brand like this go all in on a creator activation at this scale, what do you think about it? Is this the direction things are heading, or is this still the exception? What do you think?
At this level of complexity and scale and breadth, I definitely think it's the exception, but I think there's a lot of lessons that brands can learn from this sort of activation, right? A lot of times when brands have an activation, even their activation teams, they sit separate from their creator and UGC teams. And so what Samsung tried to do here is create an actual event by having this density of creators coming to San Francisco, by having structured track. It was almost like a mini conference. And
Yeah.
in doing so, you ensure that people who follow those creators, people that are interested in this space, you start to spike on the algorithms, and then you start to drive the question across your audience about oh, what's happening over there? That's interesting. And so the fact that the live stream had that many followers is super, super impressive. And it actually kind of reminds me of the roundtable that we did earlier this week around how brands can use real life events to generate UGC. And so I think what Samsung did is definitely a case study in doing it the right way. And I
Precisely
think
that.
that more brands can kind of learn okay, if we're going to create an event or an activation, whether it's our own or we're going to a conference like a CES or outdoor retailer or, go what have you, how can we leverage creators in a way that creates a density so that we can kind of spike on the algorithm? So I love the fact that they did this.
Yeah. And I'm aligned with what you just said before. I was reading when I was reading the story, I thought this feels more like a mini summit or a mini event. So yeah. But let's move on to the next story. For story number 2, we're going to talk about Mr. Beast and how he gained 117 million subscribers in a single year. That's the largest single year gain in YouTube history. And a big part of that came from a very deliberate ad campaign run by his own company, Creator Global, through Google Ads. 428 ads active every single month, heavily targeting India, Indonesia, Vietnam, all localized in multiple languages. When the campaign peaked, there were 298 unique ads that were running in a single day. Obviously, we all know that Mr. Beast is not just a creator anymore, but this really shows just how far he's taking it, right? And running a full performance marketing operation on his own channel. My question is, what do you make out of this? I know it's impressive, no question about it, but I think it also raises questions about what growth actually means on YouTube right now. What is your take?
Yeah, I think there's two aspects of this story that are very interesting to me. So one of them is kind of Creator Global, which is the localization company that
Yeah.
Mr. Beast is part of Beast Enterprises or Beast Industries, and the other is the paid marketing part of it. So let's first talk about Creator Global. So if you're in the United States, if you're in the Western English speaking world, you probably already know who Mr. Beast is. And so I think his team understands the only way they're going to continue to grow the brand is that they need to be able to translate and dub his content
Yeah.
into other languages. And that's where Creator Global comes. And so I think if you're focused on being a pure entertainment channel or a pure entertainment creator like Mr. Beast is, that makes sense. That said, there are definitely some niches where that kind of content isn't going to cross over, right? If you're a fashion
Okay.
creator, maybe it will. If you're a cooking creator, maybe it will. But if you're a sports creator, different countries have different likes in terms of sports, man. So maybe, a tennis creator could cross over, but American football creator couldn't. So there's
Yeah.
an interesting kind of dynamic there. But Mr. Beast, because they're entertainment, it crosses over a lot of different niches, probably a certain demographic. There's an opportunity to use dubbing to be able to reach new audiences, and leveraging and tapping into the localization services of Creator Global did exactly that for the brand.
Yeah.
And so that's how they were able to drive incremental growth to audiences that were maybe not necessarily searching for him in English. That said,
Okay.
when it comes to monetization, I don't know if that audience in Indonesia is going to be as interesting to advertisers as that audience in Latin America or the United States or Western Europe. And so it's an interesting calculation that they're having. They're betting on being a global entertainment brand, and we'll see how they decide to monetize that. Part of me worries that they're just trying to grow for the sake of growth as opposed to growing strategically into
Okay.
markets where they actually can drive ROI for advertisers. Maybe this is, how they're going to sell their own products. We'll find out.
Yeah.
The other side of it is the paid side. And the paid side is super interesting to me because one, that's my background, right? I came from the paid world into the
Okay.
creator economy. And then secondly, YouTube as a paid platform hasn't really been a top priority for creators or brands. I know everybody that's on YouTube monetizes through advertisements, both in terms of the YouTube AdSense program and from brand sponsorships. But what I can say from the brand side is that there are very few companies that are advertising with specific intent to grow an audience on YouTube with ads. And I think that's a massive opportunity, not just from the brand side, but from the creator side. And so I would love to see a deeper dive into exactly what sorts of campaigns Beast Enterprises was running to be able to get audiences. Were they true
Yeah.
view campaigns? Were they, pre-rolls, mid-rolls, and like how they did their targeting? Or again, was it because they were in these markets where advertisement was cheap, they were able to drive a high ROI or a high return in terms of subscriber growth because those markets are markets where there's not a lot of advertisers. I think there's an interesting conversation to be had there. But I think what we can extract from a brand perspective is that if you have a paid campaign on YouTube, if you have content that's sticky, there's an opportunity. There's a couple companies in the space like Precisify and Tube Science that actually focus on that. And I think there's a massive opportunity for brands to think about how can I create entertaining content as a pre-roll to be able to grow my audience on YouTube, whether you're working
Yeah.
with creators or growing your own brand.
Yeah. Let's move to the last story. Story number three. It's about a roundtable we did at the beginning of this month on what brands get wrong about long-term creator partnership. For this roundtable, we reach out to where we reach out to industry professionals and executives and ask them what it actually takes to build a long-term authentic creator partnership. We received 70 responses, but before I share what those responses were, I want to give you a bit more of context. We know that a recent IAB study found that nearly 60% of brand and agency buyers say creator partnerships are their top ad priority for the year. But we also know that creators are still dealing with things like late payment and overscripted brief every single day. So the gap between what brands say they want and how they actually operate, that's where most partnerships fail. So for the roundtable that we did, as I said before, we received over 70. We received 70 responses, and the same themes kept coming up: creator freedom, fair pay, stop treating creators like the distribution channel, I think in seasons, not campaign. I honestly feel like this is a conversation the industry has been having for a while now, but is anyone actually doing things differently? What do you think? Are we going to be sitting here next year saying the same thing, having the same conversation?
I mean, what I would say is that I was a little bit disappointed not to hear more voices understand that this is a partnership, right? It's a partnership between the brands at their, they're investing dollars from an advertising perspective and the creators in terms of being the folks that have the audience and have the influence. And so, because we're at that impasse, I don't think this conversation changes. But, it kind of disheartens me a little bit when people say, don't think of creators as a distribution channel, because at the end of the day, the brands are coming from a world where whether they're advertising on TV or they were
Yeah.
advertising on in magazines or they're advertising on the radio, they think about things as distribution channels. And so I think the opportunity for the creator economy is to understand the way brands worked kind of in the old world and figure out ways to bridge that gap. And I think the
Okay.
technology, the agency, the talent managers, the creators themselves that figure out, you know, where can we kind of meet people in the middle? Like, yes, the creator needs to have the creative liberty and ability to express themselves in the way that their audience understands, but also understand, okay, great. For brands are used to buying channels, are used to buying demographics. How do we bridge those gaps so that we get the best of both worlds? And so, I'll be surprised if we saw this in the next year, but obviously, we'll continue to track this space to see who's understanding how to kind of bridge that gap. Because I think there's an opportunity to
Absolutely.
continue to grow the industry by bridging that gap.
Absolutely. Well, Lee, that's a wrap for our stories this month. I really enjoyed this one. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close out?
Yeah, I guess the last thing I would say is that if anybody's going to be at Possible in Miami, we will be there. We'll be doing an activation that Sunday before that conference. I think that's the last Sunday of the month. And so stay tuned for information about that. But other than that, yeah, good conversation.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next month with a new episode of The Big Three. Talk soon.
Thanks, everyone.